Fear is why people don't take action. Start with PPO and SEO and dominate that because it's really low cost, and then use that advantage to change your business, change your life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao. Just to begin with, I want to thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the doc sites, for their promotional support, so I'm able to do this as often as I do. I also want to remind people that I'm having my event called Supercharge Your Dental Practice, September 29th and 30th in Delray Beach, Florida. It's 18 speakers, 14 hours of CE, focus on the business and marketing side of your dental practice. To find out more, go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and use the code RAVING, R-A-V-I-N-G, to save $100 off the early bird pricing. So today's episode is with Equa Marketing Naren Arulrajah, and we're going to be talking about replacing PPO plans with Google. For many years, I've been talking about how PPO write-offs should be a marketing expense, and that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today. So I want to welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Naren. Naren, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Len. You have an amazing community, and your community are people who believe in creating an amazing practice with raving reviews. So I have always looked up to you and everything you do in the community. So thank you for having me today.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you spending a couple of minutes of your busy day reaching out and discussing your topics with my audience, both on the audio and both on the video. So let me read your bio here, and it's brief, so that's really good. I appreciate that. So he is the founder or CEO of Equa Marketing. It's Equa, EKWA.com, and the founder of the Dental Marketing Society and co-founder of Reducing Insurance Dependence Academy, which is RID.Academy. He has over 18 years of experience helping dentists expand their businesses online and dominate Google. He co-hosts two popular dental podcasts, the Thriving Dentist podcast with Gary Takis and Less Insurance Dependence podcast as well. He also created a Facebook group called I Love Dentistry with over 14,000 members. So that's a really big group, 14,000. In Raving Patients, I have just 5,300. So that's a big group, 14,000 members. So thank you for making it short. I appreciate it. So the title of the podcast was Replacing PPO Plans with Google. Obviously, I told you in the very beginning and off recording that I have always been someone who has always told businesses and dental offices to take their PPO write-offs as a marketing expense. So let's start with that. Obviously, there's a ton of practices who take insurance. I was very fortunate. I was insurance independent. When I practiced for 15 years, I was never in network. I did have an associate who was in network for a short period of time. But personally, I was never in network. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about PPO write-offs, why it should be a marketing expense. Why don't we start there?
Absolutely. 90% of the practice owners are dependent on PPO, meaning typically what happens is they put up their shingles, they need new patients, so the PPO firm calls them or they call the PPO firm. And the PPO firm says, oh, you know what? I'll send you unlimited amount of new patients. Sign here, like 200-page document. What they don't tell you is for the life of that patient, you're going to give up a portion of what you produce. So let's say you do $1,000 worth of dentistry, you will get paid $450, $500. They hit you on two sides. One is they restrict how much you can charge because you have to get your fee schedule approved by them. And a lot of practices haven't raised their fee schedule in like 10 years. The second way they hit you is they don't pay the full amount. They'll only pay part of the amount. So we have been doing a lot of studies, and what we are seeing is, in many states, that write-off, the amount of money you're giving the insurance company versus your usual and customary fees is 55%. The lowest we have seen is 45%. So let's do some math. So if you're producing $1 million worth of dentistry, you only get to keep $450,000 to $550,000. So that's in a year, you're giving up almost $500,000. You're practicing for 20 years, you're giving up $10 million. This is your top line. So this is what you need to, buy equipment. This is what you need to take some profit. This is what you need to pay your people, pay your rent. So this can really hurt you, especially if that number is not growing. And historically, what has been going on is ADA, can attest to this. The overhead of dental practices continues to go down. And the reason is what they're getting paid by insurance companies is shrinking. but at the same time, their expenses are going up. For example, because of inflation, wages are up 20% in the last, few years since COVID, at least 20%. In some cases, it's a lot higher than that. But the amount they're collecting through insurance is not budging. Maybe it's moving up 1 or 2%. So they're getting squeezed. So what I'm suggesting is, what is the PPO firm doing? Is it helping you treatment plan? Is it helping you buy great technology? Is it doing anything? No, they're just sending you new patients. And more, what's funny is that even the patients who are coming to you because they're part of a PPO plan, they're not finding you because of those PPO plans. They're finding you on Google. You have some amazing Google reviews. So they read those Google reviews and they call and say, hey, do you take my insurance? And they show up. But they didn't come to you because of the insurance. They come to you because of the fact that you have amazing Google reviews. You have, a great website. You have amazing cases and so forth. So you are anyways doing marketing, but you're giving this ransom to this, these fat cats at the insurance companies, like in the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's a lifetime ransom. It's not like, typically you do SEO ads, you're paying a one-time fee, let's say $50 or $200 for that patient. But here you're spending, the patient spends $5,000, half of it goes to the insurance company. You're giving them $2,500.
So what I'm hearing, and it's a very different way of looking at things, is instead of participating with the insurance companies and being held ransom by the write-offs that you have to take, you're saying take some of that money and use it to attract the fee-for-service patients that are going to pay a full fee using various marketing efforts. That's what ultimately is what you're saying there, correct?
100%. A few nuances that I would add to that. One is the amount of money you're going to spend. For example, if you were to compare apples to apples, a great SEO campaign might cost you $15,000. Now, PPO can cost you, what we are seeing is $500,000 if you are collecting $1 million. So $15,000 compared to $500,000 is like a fraction. It's 1/30th. So you don't have to spend the entire amount. You spend like 1/30th. So that's one point I want to make. The second thing is, patients are not calling because we listen to calls. One of the things we do as part of our service is, track the calls, record the calls in a HIPAA compliant manner. And if clients need coaching, provide that coaching. What we're finding is no patients say, oh, do you take this PPO? Are you part of this PPO? The only question is, I have this free thing that my employer gave me. Let's call it Delta Insurance. Do you take Delta? And the answer is absolutely. We have many patients who are with Delta. We have an insurance coordinator whose job it is to help you collect every penny from Delta. We are not in network, but we will fight for every penny. And we will make sure, just like all our Delta patients. And what we are noticing is if you say that and you train your people properly, even though you're not with that particular PPO plan, the patient is still coming in. Why? Because you have amazing Google reviews. You have an amazing website. You are showing up on SEO. So almost like you're going to get the patients anyways, whether you are with PPO or not. That's because healthcare is very personal to people. So it's not like they're going to go because you're cheap. They're going to go because you are good. So those reviews, those, cases is what's driving their decision, not the free dentistry. So they're going to show up because who you are. So why are you giving this ransom for somebody who added no value in that equation? There were even studies where they said, okay, how many people literally go to the Delta website or the PPO website to find the dentist? It's less than 10%. They go to Google. Just like they go to Google to find a restaurant, they go to Google to find a dentist. So either way, they're going to Google, and you're just giving up all this ransom money to these big fat insurance executives.
It's interesting. I am a firm believer in what you said. I think a lot of dentists out there are not going to want to, because one is they're making money and taking a write-off. The other ones are actually spending money. So it's a very different way of looking at things. But I do agree that, it's something that practices should consider doing to avoid being held ransom by these insurance companies. Again, I just think that the majority of dentists are going to have a hard time because, as you probably know, not every marketing company out there delivers the goods. And, every single day in my Facebook group, or I get a call from a dentist and they're using this marketing company. They're spending $5,000 a month and they're not seeing a return on investment. Now, to be honest with you, I don't always take great strength in what they're saying because a lot of times they're not tracking the stuff very well. They don't know truly what they're getting from these methods. So they should be, if you're spending $5,000 a month, you should be getting some return on investment. It may not be as much as you want, but I think that's the dentist who's listening to this or watching this. they're going to have a hard time saying, okay, I'm going to drop insurances. I'm going to take the money that I was spending on the insurance or losing when I took the insurances and instead spend it on Google. I think you're going to have a hard time convincing dentists to do that.
You're making a great point. I'll share an actual story. So this one particular client, she's in Virginia. So she started with us actually in 2007. And she was heavily PPO dependent. All her patients were coming from PPO. And we told her up front, look at your first year investment as an investment, meaning it's not going to, let's assume worst case, you're putting 15 grand and you don't get a single patient for 1 year because SEO does take time. So she said, okay, fine. I've spent all kinds of money on all kinds of stuff. I'll take it down with you guys. So she started working with us. And before you know it, she was getting 10 patients, 20 patients, 30 patients a month. What ended up happening is she didn't have time in the day. She was working, 4.5 days. So she was forced to drop plans. So she didn't drop all of the plans. What she did is she dropped the worst one, the one that paid her the least, gave her the most heartache. Oh, you know what? It's not too bad. Now that time she saved giving to those patients, where she was literally losing money in many cases, because after the write-offs, when she did the math, I'm giving up, $100, $200, depending on the treatment on these patients. Now I'm filling them with patients who are paying me 100 cents on the dollar. She's like, let me do the second one. Let me do the third one. Just to kind of give you this took like a 3.5 year period. She went from $650,000. This is in 2007. Working 4.5 days to 1.3 million working 3.5 days. Of course, then she ended up selling a practice and we're still working with the person who bought the practice. So my point is, you are 100% right. We all are driven by fear. We are afraid of what will happen if we drop, what will happen if that phone doesn't ring from PPO patients. That's what I'm saying. And the reason I'm a fan of SEO is Google Ads to do what we did would have cost her 10 grand a month. 1,200, she could, rationalize. She could say, what is the worst case? Okay, I lose 15 grand. But the best case is I am getting patients that are costing me a fraction of what ads are costing me, fraction of what Google SEO is costing me. And if it works, it changes my life. I'm working less. I'm making double the money. And it's almost like when you have so many patients, you're not afraid of dropping the PPO plans. I'm saying so many patients who are not on those plans. So that's what happens. It gives her gave her the confidence to do it. Today, she's the, senior vice president of a large group. And she invited me to do a series of 4 webinars at her group. PA Forshad, I'm sure you may have heard of them. They have thousands of dentists all over the world. So it's a real true story that I'm sharing with you. And you're right. Fear is why people don't take action. But that's what I'm saying, start with PPO and SEO and dominate that because it's really low cost. And then use that advantage to change your business, change your life.
Yeah. And look, one of the things you said, and I want to reiterate it, if you drop insurances, you should make more money and you will work a hell of a lot less. So, that's a big advantage is, people always say, well, I'm scared I'm going to lose patients. Yes, you will. But the net effect is you'll have more room for the full pay patients and I don't have to take the write-off from those patients. So we're in a complete agreement with you on there.
One thing I want to add is exactly what you said. You have to lose 65% of your patients for you to be worse off. You know what I mean? And if you're a relationship-driven practice who has, like many of your listeners, 5-star Google reviews, you're not going to lose 65% of your patients when you drop that PPO plan. Because they're not coming because of the PPO plan. They're coming because of you. Of course, make it easy for the patient, file their claims, do all that stuff so you don't create hassle for them. But as long as you have that conversation with them and, explain to them why you are doing this because of, all the shenanigans and all the things that the insurance company does, patients will stay with you.
Got it. No, completely agree with you on that. So I want to shift gears here a little bit. I know you mentioned, SEO and SEO being a big thing to do. And I think SEO is great. I think if you're in a somewhat competitive market, you have to be doing SEO. But there are other things that you need to do to dominate Google. And I know you have a list of things that you wanted to talk about. So why don't you touch base on those things that a practice, like a checklist that a practice needs to do in order to dominate Google?
Absolutely. So for those who are not totally familiar with SEO, Google has 8 billion people using it every day. And they make money because people use Google to find information for free. And next to that free information, they show ads. So Google makes $224 billion in ads. And they need the SEO piece to get people to use Google. But if everyone could do SEO, nobody would pay Google for ad money. So, they won't make $224 billion. So what they do is they make SEO super hard. So 5% of the websites get 95% of the free traffic and 95% of the websites get no free traffic. So the $1 million question is, if you want to be serious about SEO, is how do I get into the 5% that's going to help me dominate and get that 95% of the free traffic? I guess the two guys who started Google, they studied and met at Stanford, and I'm sure they all were like the top of everything to get into Stanford. And the way Stanford and even the top dental school works is you have to have an amazing DAT score. You have to have amazing GPA. You have to have amazing interviews. So you ace everything, then there's some chance you will get into that, top dental school. Same thing here. There are 6 things Google is looking at. And if you ace everything, then you will be in the top 5%. And Google is happy because they still have to show somebody in the free SEO. So they keep showing the same 5% all the time. And then the other 95% gives Google $224 billion. Everybody wins. Everybody's happy. A capitalistic world keeps moving on, right? So what are those 6 things? Number 1 is NAP. NAP stands for name, address, phone number consistency. And there are hundreds of these sites where your name, your business name, that is, your address and phone number is listed. The problem is, even if there's a slight difference in the way your name or address is written, like, Boulevard is in one place spelled out, one place it's BLVD. In some place, there's a space between 2 words in your business name. Some place there's not. Google looks at them as duplicate listings or different listings, and it gets confused. So what we do is we have an army, literally, and that team's job is to find these issues and fix them. And finding the issues is not that big of a deal, but fixing them is hard because they all make it super hard because they all want to make money and they want you to pay ads. So Yelp wants you to pay money for Yelp ads and so forth. So you have to learn how to use the free stuff. And so we have people who are specialists who know how to work with these hundreds of sites. So when we take on a client, 95% of them will have NAP issues even between Google and Facebook and their own website. But 3 years later, we have cleaned up 50 of those. 6 years later, we have cleaned up 100 of those. So as you move up in NAP, now you're getting an A++ in NAP. Second one, as an example, is Google Lighthouse score. So there are 5 things Google looks at page by page. It'll give you a report literally where you get a score of 0 to 100 in these 5 things. And we have a team of webmasters. They are looking at these scores and they are fixing the issues. The good thing about Google is they'll tell you what to do. It just takes a lot of work to do what they tell you to do. So as long as you're willing to do the work without trying to cheat, Google loves you. So we do that. So Google changes its Google Lighthouse algorithms once a week, at the very latest once a month. So we constantly look at it and fix it. Original content, anything more than 5% duplicate, Google will penalize you. So we have writers who write articles the way Google wants us to write it, and minimum 400 words, 95% or more original content. Every article is original. Nothing is copied, no AI. Again, Google loves you. The fourth one is Google EAT. It doesn't apply to every website, but it applies to healthcare. E stands for expertise. For example, you have a degree from a dental school. You want to include that in your bio in a certain way on every page you want to rank. Second is authority. If you're someone who has done videos like Len, you have, and your videos are all over the place, we should link those videos back onto your website from the relevant page. So let's say you're talking about implants, you have an implant page, you want to put it on your implant page. So that's how you position yourself as an authority. Again, Google loves people who are authority figures, so they reward you more because you're an authority. Last but not least, trust. Your favorite Google reviews, right? So you have to grab those reviews and again, embed them in the right way in the right page. Because when Google goes to that implant page and it notices there's an implant review, literally on that page that Google itself has verified, it trusts you more. So it's more likely to rank you. The next one is quality backlinks. Now that's who's linking to you. Are they relevant? Are they approved by Google? Are they following all the rules Google is suggesting? So here the game is getting new links and telling Google to ignore old links. So we have a massive team again on this. Last but not least, Len, it's Google reviews. So Google is looking for how often are you getting reviews, whether they are love letter or paragraph reviews, and how many total reviews you have. So frequency, the character of the reviews, which is, how detailed they are. So, I think Bird Eye is an awesome tool. And I think having that tool, and the way I explain it to my clients is, think of it like brushing your teeth. You have to do it every day. You can't just give up on this. You can't say, I have 100 reviews. No. You have to keep doing it. Just like your patients have to keep brushing their teeth. They can't do it because they can't stop doing it because they did it 3 years ago, right? You get my point. So those are the 6 keys. Now, what my team, we have built, 9 teams to work on these 6 things. What my team does is they do everything except the reviews. Reviews, we need your help. And the idea is that we can just make sure you're getting an A+. And if you keep getting an A+, you will be in the top and you will crush it. Like, you can rank for 600 keywords. Like Gary, Gary Tackers, his Practice Life Smiles, they're ranking for 687 keywords. They're getting 130 new patient calls. So it really works. Of course, it takes time, but it really works.
So I just want to repeat these 6 things for people. Again, I think this is important. Number 1 is NAP consistency. I teach NAP at all my seminars. I think it's one of the most important things. Just so you know, if you started a practice from scratch, you bought a practice recently, you removed your practice recently, you are going to be very affected by your NAP being consistent or not consistent. And if you're not consistent, you are invisible online. There's no way to be found. Okay. So I want to make sure that's number 1. It's super important. Number 2 is high Google Lighthouse scores on every page. Number 3 is original content on every page. Number 4 is the high Google EAT score, and that's expertise, authority, and trust. Number 5 is having quality backlinks, and number 6 is having a consistent flow or a velocity of reviews for Google reviews. So those are the 6 things that a practice has to have in order to dominate the first page of Google and really increase the number of new patients that you're getting. Is that a pretty good synopsis of what you said?
100%. That's it. But it takes a lot of work, but that's it.
And I am a huge proponent of those things because I've been involved in a couple of those things and preaching to the choir since 2010 that you have to be doing these things. And the practices that do it consistently get a ton of new patients and say they're a consistent flow of new patients. Those that don't do it and don't do it consistently struggle with ranking. And I 100% agree with you on this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is it. It's just the only difference is you can't just do it once and forget about it. Like, it's like getting into that top dental school every day. You have to keep at it because Google changes its algorithms. That's how they keep growing the amount of money you Google in ads. So they keep making it tough. So you just have to keep at it. It's not like one and done.
Yes, 100% so. So I'm curious, one of the biggest things I get, or one of the biggest questions I get, is how to accurately track where you're getting your patients from. So can you talk about some of the methodologies that you guys use to track new patient flow and how you know when to attribute it to an insurance company, how do you contribute it to Google, how do you contribute it to an ad that you do? Can you talk about that?
100%. So we have tracking numbers and landing pages. So for example, if somebody came from Instagram, we will have a separate tracking number for that. If somebody comes from your Google My Business page, or what I call organic, there's a tracking number for that. Somebody comes from SEO, there's a tracking number for that. You do an ad, there's a tracking number for that. Same way you can use landing pages. So you're running some ads, you don't send them to the main page, you set up some virtual numbers just for that ad. So once you have these tracking numbers, then you can compare, okay, I spent $700 to run this ad, I got so many calls. I spent X for SEO, I got so many calls. And then we go a step further. We are now at no cost for our clients incorporating, listening to the calls. So we literally listen to the calls using AI, and we'll tell you how many are from new patients. So you know exactly not only how many total calls you're getting, but how many new patient calls you're getting. And we can also tell you if you are converting them or you're not converting them. That's another problem that I see with practices. There are practices that will convert 80% of their new patient calls, and there are practices that will convert 30% of your new patient calls. So the ones that are converting 30% of their new patient calls are losing a lot of money. So just because your marketing is working and you're getting all these calls, if your conversion sucks, you won't get enough patients. So that's something we are doing. And I know there are other companies that will charge $400-$500 just for that service. And we just bundled it because we feel like it's part of the puzzle. So we are like an end-to-end. Our goal is to make the phone ring more and more and more with new patients, and also teach you or tell you how you are doing in converting those new patients into appointments.
And that's great. I like tracking numbers, but I did have a question. How do and this is a very common question I get, so I'm going to ask it again. How does the tracking numbers that you've set up affect the NAP?
That's a good question. So if you don't want to mess up with NAP, I would say use one number for the internet marketing. So mostly what happens is with our clients, we do all their marketing for them. Except for the reviews, they will use their own tool. So we will set up one tracking number because they attribute it to us because we are the ones managing their app. We are the ones updating the websites. We are the ones managing their, Instagram, Facebook. So they attribute all of that to one. That's a very, very good question. So I think if you are asking me from a NAP standpoint, I would put tracking numbers for ads like Google ads or magazine ads, but I wouldn't put tracking numbers for all organic. I'll keep one number. It's still a tracking number, but it's one tracking number for all of that organic stuff.
So my follow-up question to that would be, and I run into this a lot with clients I deal with, they have and you mentioned it, they have a Google My Business tracking number. Now, just to be very clear with you on this, I'm not a fan of a Google My Business tracking number, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. Susie Jones refers John Smith to your practice. John Smith goes onto Google to search for the practice, finds the Google My Business page after looking for the practice, because that's always going to show up when you type the practice name in. They call that number. Okay. That is not technically a marketing lead. It's a patient referral, but because it's being tracked, the company is doing the marketing for them will say, we've got you all these calls. Not all of them are going to be that. So that's a big concern I have. And on top of it, if the company ever drops the marketing company, okay, because you don't stay lifelong with a lot of these clients or a lot of these doctors, that tracking number goes away. And a lot of people use that number as the main number to call the office because that's what they saw on Google. And then it comes up with they have a disconnected phone number and ask me how I know because it happened to me when I was in practice. That's why I know it could happen. So I'm curious your thoughts on that.
100%. When it comes to the phone numbers that we set up for clients, tracking numbers, we give it to them. So let's say you are with us, Len, and whatever reason you want to move on and you don't want to be with us. 95% of our clients don't, they stay with us, but let's say you are moving on. We'll give you a complete backup of everything we have done, every web page we created. Plus, we'll give you all the tracking numbers. The reason is the way we look at ourselves is like we are painters. We don't own your house. You hired us to paint because we do an excellent job. And if we keep doing an excellent job, you'll keep hiring us every single year to paint your house. That's the way we see our relationship. So we give you the number. So this idea of you losing, it doesn't exist in our world. And some clients, so that's number one. Number two is the other mindset we have is we want things to get better. So as soon as a client comes on board, Google My Business page will give you detailed stats. They'll tell you how many people called, how many people looked up directions, how many people did discovery searches, how many people were just typing the business name. So we compare and contrast and show them when you started, this is where we are. Today, this is where we are. So what we are focusing on not necessarily is to take credit for where they started, but rather the growth. So when they started, they got 20 calls and today they're getting 70. Of course, they're going to say, the way we tweaked it, what we did made a difference because we are managing the whole thing. But we are not going to take credit for the 20 they were getting before they even showed up to us.
Okay. I have one last question and I want to get into my Q&A. So how does someone's listening to this, they want to find out where they stand? How do they find out where they are? How do they find out if they can actually get into what I think you call the top 5 of Google SEO rankings? How does someone go about doing that?
Absolutely. So I'll give you 2 answers. One is if you are ranking for 100 or more keywords on first page of Google, that means I type in, Vinny as Phoenix or whatever the keyword in my city or in my neighborhood, and you should be in the top 10 results. And you should be like that for 100 or more keywords. If that's you are in the top 5%. We have done this for 18 years, so we know. Usually if you're ranking for 100 or more keywords, you're in the top 5%. Now, we do something called a marketing strategy meeting. We're going to make it a gift for every single person listening to this podcast, Len. And it's we do 6 hours of research, 90-minute meeting, $900 value. So what we do is we study these 6 things we talked about. So we look at your NAP, we look at your Lighthouse score, we look at your EAT, and we'll give you a report card on where you stand. Are you getting an A? Are you getting a B? Are you getting a C or a D? And this is why we'll give you the data behind it. So it's not like our opinion. It's using Google tools okay, this is what we are finding. This is where you are. So you're getting a C for NAP, you're getting a B for original content, etc. And the tool we use for original content is called Copyscape, and it'll tell us even if a sentence is copied. So we can use that and share how you're doing. Second thing we do in that marketing strategy meeting is we also give you a plan on wherever you are. I mean, I'm being honest, nobody signs up with us if they're already in the top 5%. So they only sign up if they're not. How can we get you to the top 5% within 12 months? So we'll give you a plan, what each team will do, where you're going to be, and so forth. And also we look at the second part of marketing, which is, okay, fine, you're ranking, you're crushing it. Why should the patient pick up the phone and call? So I'm currently in the process of getting certified by Dr. Robert Cialdini to teach his principles. We have been applying his principles online for the last, 12 years. So we have tools to create videos and to make it easy for doctors to create videos. Why do we do it? We want to position our clients as authority figures. And then we embed those videos on social media and YouTube and the website and so forth properly. So we look at both sides, how to help people find you, which is all about SEO, and then how to help people choose you, which is all about influence. So we apply the 6 principles of Cialdini. So there's 14 teams. So all of this will be explained in that detailed marketing strategy as to what we would do. So think of it like your marketing blueprint. That's what you're going to get at the end of the meeting. Take it, whether you work with us or not, don't work with us, you can apply it. The link for that marketing strategy meeting is ekwa.com/MSM. ekwa.com/MSM. And if you do mention Len's podcast or Len, we'll also go a step further. If you do decide to work with us, we will give you savings of $250 in month 1 and $250 in month 2. It's all inclusive fee. It's $1,250 a month, but it's all inclusive. We don't nickel and dime you. And like I said, going back to PPO ads, it's a fraction of what you would save versus those 2 methods.
Okay, perfect. So in the time we have left, I want to go through my little Q&A here. We'll probably get through 8 questions maybe. So I'm going to ask you these questions, Naren. You just answer them as quickly as you can. They're nothing inappropriate. So first question, do you make a to-do list? Do you do it every day, every week, or when do you do it?
The way I do it is I know my priorities for the year. And then from that, I have certain things I do every day, like certain meetings. So that's already in my calendar. And then, of course, I keep re-looking at my goals for the year. And then based on that, I adjust it. So I don't necessarily do the to-do list strategy that you just said exactly that way. I use a form of it, but in a different way.
What eats up most of your time that you'd like to change?
I like new things. And so for me, that I don't consider it eating up time, or learning. So like interviewing somebody on a podcast or being on a podcast. I find that being spontaneous is fun. But I think if I can change something, I think I'm not very organized. So I'm trying to get somebody who's a CEO of a large company to kind of help me put some structure in place, some cadences in place. So I don't have to, the things, there are 2 types of activities where you have to think and where you can do it in a brainless fashion. So the brainless stuff, I want an expert to kind of tell me this is it, just follow the template. So that's something I'm working on actively.
Do you believe there is some sort of pattern or formula to becoming successful businessmen?
100%. This is a quote from Chet Holmes that I heard that changed my life in 2007 or 2008. He said, successful people don't do 100 things. They do 10 things 10,000 times. And that changed my life. So what I realized is every business has 10 things that you have to be extremely good at. Either you do them or you find somebody who's the best in the world at it. And then you partner with them and you trust them and you work with them. So once you master these 10 checklists, you can just go to the moon. You don't have to do so many things. So that's something that changed my life.
Okay. What mindsets have helped make you successful?
Yeah. There's one quote from Dale Carnegie that changed my life also. He said, the world is full of people who are grabbing and self-seeking. In that world, the rare individual who focuses on helping others get what they want has no competition. The world is full of people who are grabbing and self-seeking. In that world, the rare individual who focuses on helping others get what they want has no competition. He said that 90 years ago, but it's more true today. So most people are like, me. How do I win? How do I get what I want? But the successful people are all about making others succeed. The more people you help succeed, like Google, for example, billions of people use it. They're worth, $2 trillion.
If you could take a class to learn anything you want, what would it be?
More about AI. Artificial intelligence.
Okay. AI, that's a big future there. So, what has been something that you've given up on that you never wish you did?
I'm not the kind of person who has a lot of regrets. If I make a mistake, I look at it as an expensive lesson and I learn from it. I don't get jealous of people. I admire people because I feel like if they're doing something better, hopefully by admiring them, I will want to do it. So I guess I don't have regrets like that. I can also not be mad. You could yell at me today and I'll forget about it. Just, I don't know. I guess I feel like life is too short to, be regretful or, you know what I'm saying.
Okay. And then last question, what is one subscription that you cannot live without?
There's so many. Of course, I'm a fan of podcasts. So I listen to your podcast. I of course love the one that Gary, leads. That's Thriving Dentist. I'm the sidekick. I help him with that. thrivingdentist.com. So I guess in dentistry, I think I believe in learning. So anything where I can continue to learn something new, I'm all for it. And today, I think it's not one thing, it's many, many, many things.
Okay. Well, that was good. Thank you for answering that. Now I know you gave out your website so they can get signed up for this complimentary time with you. It's equa.com/MSM, equa.com/MSM. If anybody has any questions and want to reach out to you, do you want to provide your contact information for those people?
Absolutely. So you can reach out to me. My mobile number is 647-824-3893. That's my personal number. I don't check voicemails as often. So if you need to get a hold of me, just text me because I do check my text pretty often. 647-824-3893. Also, you can email me directly, which is Naren. That's N for Nancy, A for Apple, R for Reagan, E for Edward, N for Nancy. Naren at Equa, EKWA.com. And once again, that link is EKWA.com/M for Mary, S for Sam, and M for Mary.
This was a ton of great information. We are on the same page. We have the same brain length with a lot of these things because this is what I teach my clients as well. So I appreciate you sharing your expertise with my team. If you're listening or viewing this and you want to learn more, please feel free to reach out to Naren and his team. He gave you his contact information. If you like the episode, please make sure you share it. Please make sure you subscribe to the episodes. We come out Fridays at 5 a.m. Please also remember that I have my event coming up September 29th and 30th. In Delray Beach, Florida. It's called Supercharge Your Dental Practice. You can get more information on that. And as I always end my podcasts, remember, your reputation matters. Thank you, Naren, for joining me, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thank you.